Welcome everyone to the greatest show where I get to show up the greatest people and have way too much fun doing it. Welcome my guest Sarah Watt to the show today. Welcome Sarah. Hello.
Thank you. Hello. And I love that intro. I was like dancing away. I feel like I'm
do?
on I'm on Oprah Winfrey show or Ellen or something where they play the intro and then the person gets to dance out onto stage.
Yeah.
Very cool. Good job. This is very cool. Yeah.
That's my dream, is to have guests dancing out onto the show. That's the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Love it. Good target to have.
Yeah. So talking about the future, that's actually what we're here to talk about today. So we wanted to open up a conversation today with all of you listening and hanging out with us about creating the future with the difference that you are and choices, which for some people, I know for me, when I first heard of that, I had the point of view that my choices don't create anything other than my own little tiny little life. And even then it's like I have to like fight to have choice, or that I was more just looking for the right choice than creating a future with my choice. Whew. So, so I would love, Sarah, would you just kind of launch us off in talking a little bit about how do choices create the future?
Yeah, and I think exactly like what you were saying, I think most people see choice as like this menu, or like there's a certain amount of options you can have to choose from. And I guess the more the more practice I've had at life, and the more practice I've had at choosing, I've really, and also being so fortunate to be surrounded by so many brilliant people that actually do this stuff very well. And I have some great leaders in my life that I've watched how they've chosen and created their lives, and very much, taken what they've done and applied it to my life and what I'm choosing and creating. So, but I mean, it's one of those things where most of us don't grow up where it's like your parents are like, you can choose anything. Like what, and even waking up every morning, what would you like to choose today? It's kind of like, okay, today's Monday. So this is what Monday means. This is what we need to do today. This is what we're going to choose. And then it's like, okay, so now you're 15. That based on that, this is what choices you have. This is what you need to choose. Like we kind of go through life, and it's almost like the menu changes slightly depending on the day of the week or where we are at in life, but it's always like choices presented to us as a certain amount of options.
Yeah.
And I guess like as I've moved through life, I've actually realized like I guess it's kind of, to put it simply, the choices you have available, nobody else has. So what I have available to choose, nobody else has that available. And I think that's one key thing to start looking at. So, I mean, if you're watching this show and you're like, well, where do I even, like, what do you even mean? Like, most of us get that sense of the menu of choice we've been presented with and the menu of choice that we've had and have chosen from to date. But what if you started asking questions around, okay, so what choices do I have available that nobody else does? And you don't have to get super linear about it and start working it all out. But what if, like, the cool thing about questions is they start to open stuff up. Like it's like this magic little door opener where what if like for the next, I don't know, day or week, everyone just played with that question. What choices do I have available that nobody else has? And then start looking at choosing some stuff from there. Because like what you were saying at the start, you think that your choices don't have an impact on what goes on outside of your world. But once you start playing with this as a reality, you start to see where everything you choose has that, like how everything's kind of connected in a way, and what you're choosing and how you're showing up in the world actually creates, a lot in the world. So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
love that. And it's interesting to look at it from, so the menu, I love how you described it as a menu. So you can have this or you can have this. And so we're entrained to choose based on what you're going to get. So it's like a
result.
getting, rather than a creation, a choice that actually creates something. So would you chose to bring a magical creature into your life recently. I thought this could be a great example for us to use.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So your horse, Ollie, is it Ollie?
Yeah.
So you chose to bring him into your life. How did that create your future? How did that create something different?
Well, geez, like it's so interesting with, I once heard Gary Douglas, an amazing man who created this thing called access consciousness, 30 years ago. And I've always been a horse lover. Like I grew up, it's so funny, you either love horses or you don't. Like there's no real, horses are like this funny thing where you're either kind of obsessed with them or they're just not even in your universe. There's no real in between, I found, with horses. So I was definitely on the spectrum of obsessed, but I chose to be born into a family that grew up on the coast in small houses by the beach. So, I fell in love with horses from a very young age, but never really could have horses. And anyway, not to get too involved in the story, but when I came to Access, I realized that Gary Douglas was right into horses. And I heard him one day say, everything I learned in life, I learned from my horse or from a horse. And I was like, wow, what does that even mean? And again, I started looking at the question of it, what does he mean by that? And, back a few years ago, the first horse I ever added to my life, well, not the first horse I ever added, but the one that when I really realized the future, when it was creating something for my future, I also have two horses overseas. So I live in Australia, and this is where you really get out of the linearity of choosing, right? I'm someone that lives in Australia. I have a horse in Costa Rica. I have a horse in Houston, Texas, and I have a horse here in Australia with me. Well, actually, now I've just added two more horses, so I've got three here in Australia. But to look at Ollie in particular, so I chose him because, we came back to Australia, COVID was happening, the world was starting to shut down. I was traveling pretty much full time for my job. I was off overseas. Australia was always my base, but I was leaving a lot to travel. So I kind of got the sense we're not going anywhere for a little while. So, most people would be, but, obviously I know also we're going to be traveling again eventually, hopefully, fingers crossed, it's coming, it's coming. So, I mean, to say, I want to add a horse to my life while I'm here in Australia, most people would go into, okay, so, I need to have a plan about the future. I need to plan this and plan that. And it's not to say don't have a sense of that stuff, but what I really looked at was okay, if I add this being, this creature to my life, will it create something greater for my future? And it was this resounding yes. And literally the moment I chose, I'd like to have a horse here in Australia with me, everything just starts to fall into place. So I found a place to keep him. Before I even had chosen him, I found somewhere that he could live, because that I knew that was important. And then where I found for him to live, the guy was like, I actually know a lot of people that sell horses. Let me see if anyone has a horse available. And then literally 24 hours, he sent me a photo of Ollie, and I saw the photo and was like, that's my horse. So I went to meet him, and it was just this thing of boop, 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 boop. And then, things get thrown into the mix along the way. He wasn't suited to the place he was living, so I had to move him, and instantly I found somewhere for him to go that was better. And then I was like, you know what, this whole driving half an hour each way to see him and spending so much time driving is not really working. So I'm like, well, what would it take to have a place I could live where I could have him? I think 2 days later, I found an ad online for this house that I now live in on 20 acres, 30 minutes from where I used to live. So I've moved here. Ollie lives with me now. Plus I've got two more horses that live here, and I'm on this beautiful property where, those choices, where we talk about how one choice can create a different future and how one choice changes. I chose this horse, and obviously changed a lot for me, but it's also what he contributes to everyone else. Obviously I splash him, he's on social media a lot. Everyone that knows me or knows me on social media knows my horse, right? And where he contributes to other, people send me messages oh my God, Sarah, I see your Instagram stories and it just brings peace to my world. I love what you do with the photos of him and blah, blah, blah. How does anyone think I'm going to buy a horse and change someone's life, even for 10 seconds, give someone this energy of the space and the peace of this land and of this creature? And that's where getting out of this menu of choice and choosing from a result, most people would I'm going to buy a horse so I can ride it. I mean, at the moment, I hardly ride him. We spend a lot of time hanging out. I spend a lot of time sitting with them and watching them. I spend a lot of time just chilling out with him. I haven't ridden him in ages. And most people are like, well, when are you going to ride? And I'm like, I don't know, when I choose to ride. Like most people would have, you buy a horse, you buy the gear, you get lessons, you ride the horse. And I'm like, I just want this magical animal in my life because he's a contribution.
Yeah. Wow. That was, thank you so much for all of that, because that really showed really dynamically how you chose something and then it's already created a future and more and more and more and more.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
And that's that whole choice. That's like the whole choice thing. We think, oh, I'm going to make this choice and it's only good for like what's happening right now with that choice. And then we start to panic because we're like, well, what's going to happen next and what's going to happen next? And it's more this place of like, if you can get out of that result world with your choices and look at energetically and really, and I know if you're not used to delving into the world of energy where it's this whole different thing and it takes you completely out of planning and linearity and all that sort of stuff, when you're willing to make a choice based on the future it's going to create energetically, it just changes everything. It really does.
Yeah. And I love that there's not really a lot of logic involved. Because like you said, you have, a horse in Costa Rica. Like, what do you need another horse for? Like you couldn't really.
What do you need another horse for? That's like, that is the question of all questions. What do you need another horse for, Sarah? And, like just to quickly lead on quickly from that as well. So Ollie came here and I'm like, oh, I kind of feel like he needs some friends. Like horses are herd animals. Like even though they don't necessarily love to be socially interactive, there's an energy they share with each other in a herd environment. Anyway, I was watching him and I'm like, I think he needs some friends. So I contacted my friends here on the coast who breed horses. And I'm like, do you guys have horses for sale? And she's like, yes. So I went out and looked at the herd. She's like, this is the horse I have picked for you. And I'm like, well, I like him, but I kind of like her as well. I said, could I just take two of them and then see how they go? And then, I can make a choice. And she's like, sure. So these two horses, one of them's never left the property. He's 6 years old. He's never left this property. We got him on this cattle truck and drove him down to my property here. 2 weeks ago, they've been here 2.5 weeks. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to buy both of these horses. And I was talking to Simone Millicis, my very good friend, and she's like, it's so funny, Sarah, because when you look at this linearly, it makes no sense. Like it makes no sense to have 3 horses plus 2 overseas, so 5 in total. There's a possibility you could start traveling. And I mean, the lease on this house ends in January next year. So I've literally got 10 or 11 more months here and then I need to move. But it's like, but when you look at it energetically, it is a resounding yes to get these horses. So it's like, where do we stop what we know is possible with magic and creation and future based on what we delve into in the linear world? Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk to the people that they're maybe just starting to look at choice. Okay. So choice. So my choice can create a future, but they don't know what to choose. Where can they go? What can they start exploring or asking and wondering about?
Yeah, well, I would find a couple of questions that really work for you and play with them. So, I mean, there's so many ways you can approach this. And for me, we all want to I don't know many people that don't want to make a difference in this world. I don't know many people that wake up in the morning and they're like, there's probably some people out there that are really happy with whatever they're creating right now and they're happy to stay like this. And that's fine. But I guess probably the people watching this show and your peeps and my peeps are the peeps that are looking for something different. Like they want to create a better world. They want to be more happy. They want to have better interactions with the people. They want to live in a world with more happy people, less judgment, all that sort of stuff. So I used to really trip myself up on needing to be like, there's so many brilliant people in the world. We've had people historically, people alive right now that are doing big things like, Mozart, Picasso, like these people that were born into the world and created a life that was so big and so phenomenal. And I think for me, I was like, well, I need to do that in order to create a greater world. Like I need to create
Mm.
some sort of masterpiece or leave a mark on the world that people will
Yeah.
speak about historically. And, you know, you look at those people, most of them weren't actually famous in their lifetime. Like most of them became famous or recognized for what they created either once they were dead or very late in the process of creating. They didn't wake up in the morning and be like, I'm going to create this because it's going to change something in the world. They literally got up every day and chose what they loved. Like they chose. So I used to spend a lot of time like being like, you know, I'm not good enough. I could never change anything in this world. And I was really like, how do I get around this? And I was listening to Dr. Dane here facilitate on a class one day, and he made a statement that I then turned into a question. I used to have it written down, but I pretty much can remember it anyway. He was like, what if you woke up every day and created a life that was a gift to the world? And I was like, there was something in that was just like, boom, because there's no structure to that. There's no path to follow. So I was like, okay, so let me formulate that into a question. And I was like, okay, so what can I be today? What can I show up as today? What can I choose today to create a life that is a gift to this world? And that is one question that I would definitely tell you guys, or, you know, implore you to play with, because being a gift to the world could be anything. It could be anything. It doesn't mean you need to create a masterpiece. It doesn't mean you need to solve world hunger or solve COVID and create something. Like it can be absolutely anything. It can be one post on Facebook that impacts, you know, 50 people around the world. It could be one conversation you have with a person in a supermarket. You might not even need to open your mouth. It might just be the energy you be when you walk into a room that is a gift to this world. And it really starts to get you to a place where you don't think about things so much. I think we spend a lot of time in our heads and a lot of time trying to figure things out. And what I've really found with choice is it's not figure outable. You've just got to do it and choose it.
Yeah. I love that. It's not figure outable.
Yeah.
So there's no perfect formula we can deliver today.
I'm sorry.
Of how to perfectly
I wish there was
the perfect right thing to get the perfect future. Darn.
This is where, you know, you in this show as well, talking about the difference of you. And, you know, we've brushed on these topics as well. You have choices available that nobody else has. Like the difference of you is where you start to recognize that. Like the difference you truly be are the choices that you have available that nobody else has. And again, that is so, go.
Yeah. Well, can you extrapolate on that a little bit? So for someone might be like, well, they might see having different choices more to do with a privilege or more to do with rather than the difference that they are. So could we extrapolate on someone getting more aware of that their difference actually does create different choices? So what is that? Why is that?
Well, because I mean, essentially what I put it down to is every single one of us, like to maybe put it in terms that is like less kind of wishy-washy in a way, you vibrate on a level that's different to anyone else. Like so even for a moment, like even every day you could practice this. And the one thing I'll say with this stuff as well is it's like a muscle. Everything that we're talking about right now, I didn't just wake up one day and was like, now I know how to choose. Now I know what being me means. Now I know, like every single day I practice this stuff. Like I practice tapping into the energy of myself and also recognizing when I'm not being me. Like if I'm in a room of people or like, you know, we've all got that moment where we go somewhere and we lose ourselves. Like we go somewhere and all of a sudden we're like caught up in the energy of everyone else, you know, perceiving everyone else's stuff. And, you know, that it's probably easier to recognize the moments we're not being us than it is the moments we are being us, because there's so many more times where we're not really being us. We tend to really because that's just, we want to take care of things. I mean, most of us want to just make sure everyone around us, that everything's okay, like that everyone around us is taken care of, that we're fitting in with what's going on around us. So what I would say is start with like maybe 30 seconds a day, just finding a quiet space and just like tapping into, and it might not come super fast to start with, or it probably will, but you might be like, that was way too easy. So, and tap into the energy, tap into the energy of you. Like, look at like energetically, what do I feel like as an energetic being, creature, whatever, and start to like just perceive what that feels like as you. Because I mean, you've got this on the outside, like the image of you and what you present to the world, but that's generally actually a byproduct of what's really going on as for you as a being, as like this energetic creature, this thing that exists inside, outside your body, everywhere in the world. So to start finding the choices that you have available that nobody else has, first start to build a really cool relationship with yourself. And like find that place where you're like, okay, so now I've got the energy of like what being me is. And then, you know, you might go out somewhere, go to the supermarket, the gym, like whatever, hang out with friends or family, and you'll start to be like, I just lost that. It kind of went. So, but the moment you know, number one, what that feels like, and number two, when it's not feeling like that, then you can just ask to have it again. Like ask for me to show up again. So that for me is where like the thing of realizing and recognizing the choices that I have available that nobody else has, because a lot of choices, we think choice is like a doing, which it can be as well. Like I need to do this to get this result, which partly is what a choice is, but there's so much that goes on with choosing that's on this energetic level. And most of what you have available that nobody else has is based on that. It's based on who you are as a being, as this thing that's existing in the world. So, and I know that's kind of like a little wishy-washy and a little bit hard to kind of quantify, but what I would say is start practicing tapping into the energy of you and what that feels like to you. And then you can ask questions. And this is where, for me, question is the thing that changes everything. And I would write it down. I'd have a little thing somewhere. So you could start with the one about, you know, if I desired to create my life as a gift to the world, what could I choose today? Or what choices could I make today to create a life that is a gift to the world? And that could just be a question you carry around with you all day and ask whenever. The other thing I would say is sit somewhere every day and start with just 30 seconds, you know, maybe increase it to a minute and tap into the energy of you. And then again, take that with you wherever you go throughout the day and ask whenever it leaves you for it to come back. And then, yep. I know I'm talking a lot.
I was going to say what I love. No, I love it. I love it. And what I love so much about this, like coming at it from this perspective also, is I have the sense that people will also get more clear when they're choosing something for them or when they're choosing something for someone else. Because if they have that intimacy with who they be as a being, and then they go to choose from there, it's truly from what is going to create more for them, for what they really desire, which will go into creating that future. Go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's exactly that. And it doesn't mean you can't choose with everyone else in mind, like everyone else included in that choice. But what it does is it puts you always in that computation. So rather than it being like, I need to choose this to keep that person happy, or I need to choose this to avoid something, or I need to choose this to create a certain outcome, it becomes more this place of, I'm going to choose this because it's going to create greater for me. And from there, believe it or not, it actually creates greater for everybody else as well. So, and I would say, like, break it down, guys. Like, this stuff only becomes overwhelming when you try to jump sort of 10 steps ahead. Like I said, like Casey, I know for you as well, like we've been doing this stuff for quite a long time. And even now I'm like a child that, like, in the grand scheme of things, I feel like I'm still every day is like the first sentence on the first page of a 1,000-page book. Like, I still feel like I'm at the beginning.
Yeah.
But what I'm committed to and what I demand of myself is that not to give up on this. And every day, if I catch myself judging other people, choosing from a place that's not me, I'm like, oh, okay, so what if I could just change that right now? And if I was choosing more, if I was choosing something greater, what can I choose now? And not making yourself wrong for it, but always being willing to practice and play with things.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. And somehow it's already been 25 minutes. We're getting to the end of the show here.
I was like, oh my God.
Well, I just want to direct people for a minute. If any of you want more with Sarah, we have her links right in the description. Please follow her. Please go check out Ollie. And, Sarah facilitates classes. She does workshops. She does online stuff. And so if you would like more interaction with her, please follow your awareness, check that stuff out, and gain more from this amazing, beautiful woman. I'm so thankful for you being on here.
Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. And thanks for watching, guys, now or in the future. And just ask questions and keep choosing. You really can't do this stuff wrong. You really can't.
I love how psychic you are, because I was going to say, is there anything else you want to say before we get to the game? So is there anything else you want to say?
Well, I would just that, like, really, guys, like, if you could have a phenomenal life, what would you choose? Like, where can you start choosing all the elements of you and the phenomenons of you in your life right now? And have fun, smile and enjoy it. And even when you stuff up, pick yourself up and just take another step.
That was like a mic drop with like a whoosh possibility.
I love it.
Thank you. All right. So let's do the game. In the greatest show fashion, we're going to end the show on a game. This game is called Fortune Teller. So here's how the game works. I'm going to write down some of Sarah's answers to get a set of questions to reveal her future. This is very significant. No, it's not. And okay. So I have like a whole thing here, a chart, and all the things. So I'm gonna pull this
all
in.
the things.
All the things. This is So what this means, so okay, you guys may have played this. I played this as a kid. So we were always like trying to find out like who are we gonna marry and like what kind of house are we gonna live in and all the stuff. But it actually, if any of you guys know this, you would have seen the word MASH up here, but I thought it was really boring. So I changed it. So this means private island, possibly in your future, castle, animal sanctuary, or a forest reserve. Okay. So what I need from you, Sarah, so I'm going to ask you some questions. I need 4 crushes, celebrity or otherwise. Because you might marry them.
This was interesting. This was interesting when I looked at this, because I don't really do crushes. Like, I'm sort of like, I admire people and I'm like, I really love like what you're creating in the world. But then I was like, but I'm like, stuff it. Let's just go. So there's a horseman, and I mean, I feel kind of weird because he's like married, and but you know, it's like, well, that's the point of like a celebrity crush. So there's a guy.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fun. Get over it, Sarah. Get over the significance. So there's a horseman that I follow who is totally brilliant, and I adore how he works with horses and he works with energy, and he's amazing. So I'm going to put him as one of my celebrity crushes. His name is. Do you want me to? His name's Warwick Schiller. Warwick Schiller. So it's Warwick. Warwick is more how it would be pronounced.
Okay.
Schiller, like Schiller.
We could just we'll just write that. Yeah.
Okay.
My terrible writing.
And then definitely Matt Damon, the actor, because he's like,
I like
and I mean,
him.
most of them are going to be like, it's funny because most of them are actually a bit shallow like this. because I'm like, okay, well, if it's going to be a celebrity crush, it might as well be someone. So then the next one is also an actor, and that's Jake Gyllenhaal. So he's also, you know, an actor on movies. Jake, just put Jake anyway.
I don't know if I know Jake.
And then for the fourth one, you would know him if you looked him up for sure. He's very famous. He's in a lot of movies. But the fourth one, I'd like to say a musician, but I'm trying to think of someone that I've been crushing on lately. That oh my god, it's got to be easy. Let's put Kendrick Lamar because that's easy. Kendrick, Kendrick. Yeah. There you go. There's an insight into my world. Horse people, hot actors, and hip hop artists.
Yes. This is juicy. I like this. Okay, so I need four dream jobs.
Yeah. So definitely to be a veterinarian, because even as a kid, I was like, I would love to, you know, and it was definitely in my sights at one point, and then I was like seriously spending like 6 more years at university and studying. No way. The other one would be like, you know, those people that work like deep in like the what would you call them? It's like a special services person that works like in the government army and stuff, but they go in and do all the real hardcore stuff where they can't talk to anyone. They've got to be like very. So what would you call that person?
Like Men in Black.
Like, yeah, like that. Let's call it that.
The Secret Service.
Secret Service. Yeah. And then the next one would probably be like, oh god, now I'm going to be like revealing my other side. I would say like some sort of assassin where they just go in and like find the worst people and just basically kill them. And then number 4. And then number 4, dream job. Number 4. You see how prepared I am for this stuff I was saying to you before. I would have used to have spent hours preparing for this, and now I'm like, I'm just going to dive in and talk about what's up at the moment. So number 4, I would say definitely working with horses in some capacity full time. And I know like all of this. Well, actually, no. Sorry, can we change that? Am I allowed to say my current job is my dream job?
Yes.
Or is that like being a little bit? Because honestly, right, what I do is like I pinch myself every day. I'm like, is this real? Is this really happening? Yeah. So let's say it doesn't really have a title.
Facilitator. So, I don't know.
Yeah, let's say that.
Yeah, something like that.
Perfect.
Okay, so our last 4 are places that you'd like to live. Like on the planet.
So definitely Costa Rica. I would just say El Lugar, like, because I know you want like a specific place. So El Lugar is being built. I don't know the name of the town or the part of Costa Rica that it's in, but Costa Rica feels like to me is like my second home. It's that one place when I leave there, I actually miss it. Again, I would like to say here on the Sunshine Coast in Australia is like, I love this place so much. It's truly phenomenal. Let's say Venice as in Venice, Italy. And number 4, I'm thinking of like a European city or actually like maybe let's say Amsterdam. I loved Amsterdam as a city.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So okay, this is the magic happening. So I'm gonna do a swirl and you're gonna tell me when to stop. And that's gonna create the number scheme that we use.
God, this is so funny.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah. And stop.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is your lucky number. Okay. So now we do an elimination round. Okay, and I'll do this as fast as I can. 1, 2, 3, 4. This way. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is your fortune. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Because your choices created this future. So you're gonna live. You're gonna own an animal sanctuary,
Of course.
and you're gonna live in Venice. I don't know if the animal sanctuary is in Venice. I don't know if you live on
It's
it.
okay.
Maybe you do. Yeah. You're gonna be a vet.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then you're gonna have relations with Jake.
Yes!
Woo! That sounds
My
pretty
choices
good.
have created. Look at what my choices have created.
Look what your choices created. That's amazing. Well, thank you again, Sarah, so much for being on the show. That was so fun.
Thank you, my love.
And thank you everyone
Thank
for
you.
watching. Yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Everyone.
Bye.